It is 7 a.m. on June 15th, 2023. A quorum is present, and the meeting has been duly called and posted in the time and manner required by law. Therefore, I will call this called public hearing and regular business meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Lubbock Independent School District to order. I'd like to begin by inviting Cammie Finger, our Assistant Superintendent for School Support and Special Services, to open our meeting with a prayer and to lead the audience in the pledges to the American and Texas flags. Good morning, Cammie.
Good morning. If you'll join me. Father God, we come to you remembering that we are called to serve students. Let the children come to me as part of a scripture that reminds me that they are the priority. We do not humbly ask that we be given what is needed to fulfill our purpose in serving students. We boldly declare that you will give us exactly what we need. Let each of us called to serve be brave in our acts of service, resilient in the most challenging of times, and let us continuously seek knowledge, wisdom, and insight in every decision that impacts every child in every moment of every day. Let us also be relentless in our communication to the state and nation as we remind them that we represent public education, the largest ministry to serve students, many who without us would lose sight of the purpose you have called them to. We leave this prayer with great thanks to you for bestowing your protection on Lubbock ISD staff and students. We thank you for the staff who teach and serve our children with all of their hearts. And we thank you for your ongoing provision to see that we are able to fulfill your call. May we continue to glorify you in all that we do. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Cammie.
Thank you, Cammie. At this point, an executive closed session is called for under the relevant provisions of Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. It is 7:02 a.m. and the board is adjourned to closed session. 23 a.m. We'll reconvene from executive session. Do we have any actions following closed session?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Ms. Bridges.
All right. Oh, I got my mic up here. Thank you. I move that we hire Crystal Alvarado as the principal of Machen Elementary School.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second that we approve the hiring of Crystal Alvarado as the principal of Machen Elementary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Crystal, congratulations. Welcome.
Welcome.
We'd
Thank
love to
you.
hear from you.
Thank you. I just want to start out by thanking all of you, President, Mr. Brady, Dr. Rolo, and all the Board of Trustees for this opportunity. I am super excited to start my new journey and adventures at Machen and involving in the Lubbock High feeder pattern. I've just had the opportunity to work alongside some impactful leaders that have really shaped who I am today. From Cicely Alexander at Alderson, from J.C. Underwood and Gabe Gillespie at Stewart. And a huge shout out goes to my family who are here with me today. I have my husband, Domingo Alvarado, and my 3 kids here with me, Megan, Haley, and Austin. I do have one more kid, but she couldn't make it this morning because she thinks it's a little early for waking the baby. So huge shout out to them.
So what's her name?
Peyton Alvarado, yes. Machen has some great things in place. Ms. Hernandez and Ms. Mendez have done a great job, and I just look forward to continuing all of those great things and working alongside of Ms. Hernandez and just looking for this journey. So I just want to thank you again for having the confidence and trust in me to lead Machen.
Thank you so much, Crystal.
Welcome. Congratulations.
At this time, I'll open the floor up to any trustee comments. We'll move into item 5, our called public hearing. At this time, I'll open up a called public hearing on the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Oh. Let me go ahead and finish this right quick. The purpose of this public hearing is to discuss the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget and hear comments from the public on the 2023-2024 proposed tax rate. I will point out we've got folks signed up for the public comment period, the general public comment period of the meeting. This is not that section. That section will be coming up right after we take a break for pictures. We're required by law to have a specific public comment period on the budget and the tax rate, and that's what we're doing now. Is there anyone who would like to make comments to the board on either of those topics? If there is no further discussion regarding the 2023-2024 proposed tax rate, we will close the call public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting of the board. At this point, we're going to take a brief break so that we can get a few photographs for Ms. Alvarado and her family, and then as soon as we finish that, we'll move into the citizen comments section of our agenda. Thank you guys very much for your understanding on the schedule. It's 7:26 a.m. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. :35 a.m. and we are reconvened from a brief recess. The next order of business is citizen comments. Before we begin, I would like to review the provisions in board policy governing the procedures for public participation as reflected in BED Local. The audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on the matters being considered by the board. I will remind members of the board that the citizen comment section of our board meeting is for the purpose of listening to patrons, but we are not allowed to comment or debate on issues that are not otherwise posted on today's agenda. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes, and a timer will go off at the completion of 3 minutes. To members of the public, I would ask that you conclude your comments within the time limit allowed. As I call your name, if you would come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record and begin your comments. First, I'd invite Shonda King to the podium. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Shonda King. My name is Shonda King, and I've always been a warrior. I'm a first-generation graduate. I am a resilient young lady of high integrity. I'm a hard worker, and I have a growth mindset. I am courageous in the presence of fear, but most importantly, my God goes before me, and that's who I trust. I totally disagree with the administration of Lubbock ISD intentions to request that the Board of Trustees pursuit of Texas Education Code to end my contract immediately in the best interest of the district. Before I continue, I want to inform that I have always had the utmost respect for my Lubbock ISD principals, executive principals, and the superintendent, Dr. Kathy Rollo. The purpose of my statements is not to be malicious, but to be transparent and to clarify why we are here. Between the two districts that I've worked for, Lubbock ISD and Seminole County Public Schools, I've received Teacher of the Year and many other awards. My career started in January 1999 at Wheatley Elementary. August 2016, I returned to Lubbock ISD as an instructional coach for Machen Elementary. Spring of 2018, my principal, Dr. Drew Coleman, asked me to be her assistant principal. I informed her at that time that I did not have my principal's certificate, and she said, "That's fine as long as you have your master's in educational leadership." I informed her that I graduated with my master's in educational leadership from Texas Tech University, May 2013. She told me to apply. We continued to talk, and I asked her if she thought if one day I could be a principal. And she said, "Of course, if they want you, they want you." I logged into Lubbock ISD online portal and completed the application process. I never clicked that I had my principal's certificate, nor is it indicated on my resume, nor did I type that in the section that asked for my certificates. Rick Rodriguez from HR called me a few days later and congratulated me as the new AP for Machen Elementary School. From there, here's my transfer journey within Lubbock ISD. Machen Elementary, 1 year as an AP. Alderson Elementary, 3 years as the AP. Irons Middle School, 1 year as the AP. I did the work of an AP. The last week of March, Dr. Tommy Duncan encouraged me to apply for Honey and Williams, and I applied for Nat Williams, and I interviewed. The executive principal, Damon McCall, called me a few days later and asked if I had applied for Talkington. I told him no. He said the uppers are requesting that I apply. So I applied to the online portal. I never clicked that I had my principal's certificate, nor is it indicated on my resume that I uploaded. April 20th, I met with Dr. Rollo about William's interview, and at first we discussed William. Then she said, "The committee loves you and the teachers loved you." She said, "Let's put a pin in Williams and talk about Talkington. How do you feel about Talkington?" I told her my hesitations, mainly my lack of experience with high school. Then Dr. Rollo
Go ahead, please.
informed me that my journey within Lubbock ISD. She said, "You've been a teacher, an instructional coach, an AP for 5 years, working with diverse populations, being a published author, being a mother and a wife. She praised me for my daughter's success as a college graduate and a police with the Lubbock PD. She said, I will not name the principal for Williams until you have the opportunity to interview for the Talkington principal position. I was overwhelmed with joy as I walked out her office. Executive Principal Amy Stevens texted me and asked if we could meet. We met and she encouraged me to go ahead and pursue the Talkington position. Long story short, I interviewed for Talkington, met with the Young Women Preparatory Network Committee and teachers. Max Flores from HR called and congratulated me on becoming the new Talkington principal. Wednesday, May 10th at 6:33 p.m., the day before I was named as the principal, Dr. Rollo called and left me a voicemail. She said, I know tomorrow is going to be a crazy whirlwind, and I'm grateful that you said yes. She continued and said, I know you are the perfect person for this job, and she looks forward to working for me as the new principal at Talkington. 3 words: system, void, and value. A system is a set of things working together as part of a network. The goal of a system is to help you avoid wasted time, money, and resources. If the system fails in working together as a network, and indeed wastes time, money, and resources, the individual at fault would be the manufacturer because the device is not meeting the intended standard. To void means to completely empty a space. When something that is present becomes void, everything is erased. All that what I have done and all of what everyone else has done. Value is a level of importance or worth. But when does worth or value end and liability becomes your new label? The system that failed to alert the discrepancies of my principal certification is the Lubbock ISD online application portal and the Human Resource Department. If you void my contract, that concludes that you willfully erase without penalty every person of leadership that encouraged, offered, voted, and assigned my principal position. I am here because Lubbock ISD's Human Resource Department, the Interview Committee, the Executive Principals, the Board of Trustees, and our Superintendent, Dr. Kathy Rollo. I signed my contract only after it was encouraged by principals, executive principals, and the superintendent offered it to me. The question is, who approved my contract? Who offered my contracts? Who signed my contracts? Before May 30th, Lubbock ISD loved me. I was trending on Facebook. My name was celebrated in Lubbock, Texas, and surrounding cities. I was of high value until it was learned through an anonymous phone call, not the system, that I did not have my principal certification. Does a gem lose its value because it falls into the water? No, because we know the value. We look diligently for it until it's found, and then we repair it, and we place it securely back within the brackets. On Tuesday, May 30th, Max asked me if I had my principal certification. I did not lie. He gave me until July 1st to obtain my certificate. However, on Thursday, June 1st, less than 36 hours after he promised to give me to July 1st, Max retracted every word. My value in his eyes was displaced. He told me my time was up and I needed to resign today. I told him I was set to take the FELI exam on June 23rd, and I would follow the directions that he emailed me. He said it's too late. I begged him and reminded him that I had a Zoom meeting with Dr. Selena Combley with Texas Tech, and she understood my crunch time, and she was willing to help me take the 268 principal exam as instructional leader at the earliest availability this month, which at that time was June 5th. He said by the end of the day, an email would go out to Talkington families, informing them of the principal adjustment. I asked him if I could see the email. He said no, and if I didn't resign, by the end of the day, I would be terminated. I grabbed my things and walked to the door and opened it. I requested my original deadline again and reminded him that I had responsibilities as a mother, as a parent, as a wife, as a citizen. Max restated that you will receive an email tonight. 2 hours later, at 1 p.m., I was denied all access to Lubbock ISD services. It didn't matter that the online system failed to meet the intended goal. It didn't matter that HR, the interview committee, the board of trustees, Dr. Rollo, and the committee and the community said that I was the perfect person for this position. It didn't matter that I was trying to take the test to become certified. It didn't matter that my record as a model employee was spotless. It didn't matter that I did the work as an AP for 5 years. It didn't matter that I changed lives. that I was a beacon in the community, that I was praised by my superintendent. None of that mattered. I was now a liability without value, and the goal was for my contract to be void and for me to be terminated. Didn't matter about my livelihood. Again, I disagree with the presented motion to void my contract because it is not in the best interest of my livelihood and is not in the best interest of Lubbock ISD as a community. I do have my paperwork with me showing that my certification as a teacher is pending. The money was paid on yesterday, and those documents are in my binder. Thank you.
I'll invite Sharnice King to the podium. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Sharnice King. I'm the daughter of Principal Shonda King. My mother started in Lubbock ISD as a teacher when I was 6 years old. Lubbock ISD was founded in 1907. Within this district, it has approximately 28 elementaries, 10 middle schools, including Talkington, 5 high schools, including Talkington, and various needs, appropriate facilities to support the behavioral and psychological needs of the community students. That's 43 traditional public schools plus 8. Lubbock ISD is an amazing district that equips students, teachers, staff, community members, and administrators with outstanding opportunities that support academic, emotional, fine arts, and extracurricular activities. I am a professional product of Lubbock ISD, and through my parents' salaries, they took care of our household responsibilities and helped the community. Lubbock ISD is a data-informed network. They have systems for safety, systems of bilingual program, social emotional learning, the start and the end of the year, just to name a few. There is an accountable system in place for every department with clear purpose for that process. Human Resources is the Department for Employee Application Online System, and the Executive Director is Max Flores. Today, I will play devil's advocate to expand perspective, challenge opinions, and remove hasty judgment. My mom said Dr. Drew Coleman told her there are people in the district who do not have their principal certification, and at that time, they were still principals. I'm going to venture to say that Lubbock ISD was aware that my mom, Mrs. Shonda King, did not have her principal certification, but they, Lubbock ISD, were willing to assign her as a principal because it has worked in the past. Plus, she was and still is a dynamic administrator. Dr. Coleman did not lie, nor did my mother lie. So now Lubbock ISD is frantically attempting to void my mother's contract that they intentionally encouraged, offered, and assigned to her. Why, might you ask? To deflect federal liability, penalty, and risk of public retraction of funds and resources. This would create TEA a lengthy investigation for Lubbock ISD. I strongly disagree with the Board of Trustees to motion to void my mother's contract because it is not in the best interest of my mother, Mrs. Shonda King, nor is it in the best interest of the image of Lubbock ISD. Thank you.
I'll invite Jadell Scott to the podium. Good morning, Mr. Scott.
Good morning. My name is Jadell Scott, and I am the future son of Principal Shonda King. I am not a native of Lubbock, but I have been a resident of Lubbock for the past 5 years. Upon my arrival in Lubbock, God placed some amazing people in my life, one being Shonda King. LISD has an abundance of employees that commune together to produce the best of the best. Even though I am not a product of the LISD system, I am aware of the things that are birthed out of LISD. Over a month ago, I had the privilege to attend the school board meeting that entailed the naming of Principal Shonda Martin King for the Talkington School for Young Women Leaders. From the time my family walked into the building until the point of exit, nothing but positive and encouraging things were said about my mother, Shonda King. Shonda exemplifies what it means to be a leader, the exhibition of class, dedication, compassion, and the ability to conquer is what I use to define what a leader is, and that is Shonda King. Now here we are, almost a month later, questioning the position that Shonda King was given as a principal. It is factual that there are some individuals who have maintained the position of assistant principal and or principal without being qualified on paper in the past years, and those individuals did not receive the same actions that are being used for Principal King. This clearly displays the corruption in the hiring system within LISD for those in HR, Executive Director Max Flores, up to Dr. Kathy Rollo and the LISD Board of Trustees. The actions taken by LISD displayed acts of defamation and public humiliation for Shonda King. This is not a great day for the image of LISD. The standard should be equally distributed amongst every employee within the LISD system, and today that is not being done. I advise that the decision today be one that is well thought out. What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder.
At this time, I'll invite Samuel King to the podium.
I'm Samuel King. Good morning to all. There are two Samuel Kings, but he's junior, I'm senior. I'm here on behalf of Principal Shonda King. I want to protest the wrongful avoiding of her contract, but I mainly want to speak on her character and her integrity. I've known Shonda for 37 years, and 33 of those years as my spouse. I feel I'm qualified to speak on her character and integrity, not because I'm certified to do so, but because I know her, because I know who she is and I know what she stands for, which is why I believe you, Dr. Rollo, and the school board chose her and placed her as the principal of Talkington. Her placement at Machen Elementary, Alderson Elementary, and Irons Middle School was based on her ability, her knowledge in the area that was needed for assistant principal as well as principal. It was her leadership and her dedication, her success in the classroom as a teacher, her success as a instructional coach and administrator that landed her at Talkington School for young women leaders. The hiring process of any employer is a strategic one. And I believe that the Lubbock Independent School District is one of the best at the placement of its employees. When Max Flores informed Shonda that she would have until July 1st to rectify all situations, we were very grateful until 2 days later when we were given less than 4 hours either to resign or be terminated. As I listened in disbelief, I tried to sort out how the Lubbock Independent School District could just dismiss an employee who poured 19 years into the district, into the students, into the faculty, and the administrative staff. It was unbelievable, and it still is unbelievable. She's Teacher of the Year in Texas, Teacher of the Year in Florida. Her reach and her teach is so powerful that there are still students from Florida and Texas alike who have completed their higher learning education who still calls Miss King, my elementary school teacher, to help her and ask her questions in regards to life, male and female. Being a part of the desegregation era, I was placed in a hostile environment. Being hated not only by my classmates, but by the ones that were supposed to help me grow and become the man that I am today. I couldn't understand as a child why my teachers would treat me so unfairly, blatantly. This came down from the principal and the entire staff, with the exception of one teacher who made me feel as if I was important, who made a lasting impression on my life. Her name was Miss Davis. She showed me how to achieve, she showed me how to learn, and she showed me that I could exceed and excel in life. It didn't matter the color of my skin, it didn't matter my social background, didn't matter what side of town I came from. And it wasn't the certificate that was hanging on her wall that made me believe in myself and believe in her. No, it was actually her character, her integrity, and her ability to bring the best out in all of her students. That's Shonda King. I say to you, Dr. Rollo, the Board of Trustees, your placement for Shonda King was correct. And no matter what your decision is today, I know that the decision on May 11th, 2023, validates the fact that Shonda King was and still is the best candidate for this position. I strongly disagree with the wrongful voiding of her contract. Thank you.
At this time, I'll invite Samuel King Jr. to the podium. Good morning.
I am Samuel King Jr. I am Shonda King's son, and y'all put me last after all the talkers. But I did want to get up here and speak on my mother's behalf, and I had a speech that I had typed up and ready to go for everybody, but I just kind of want to talk from my heart, because that is my mom. And if your child had the opportunity to stand and represent everything that you have put in for your whole life. My mom is LISD. She is LISD. When I go somewhere, when I'm around the people that I know at work, and I go to the grocery store, they realize who I am because of who she is, who my parents are. They raised us under the concept of honesty, accountability, integrity. And those principles are what fuels us to be successful. That's the reason why we have my sister, who is an officer, who is a recruiter, who goes and finds people to be an example. Because of the example that Shonda King set out. She is a force to be reckoned with, y'all. You don't want to let that one go by the wayside because she can make an impact. This isn't a decision that should be considered light or anything that should be done in haste, because she's put in time. She's dedicated herself to you guys. She's dedicated. She is all in, even down to this process. Don't say too much, Junior. Don't say too much, because my coworker, I have a coworker that I work with. His name is Cash Terry. He's awesome. I work at Simpatico. It's an IT company. I love it. But his mom went to apply for the assistant principal. And one of the things she told when she was in the application process was my mom, hey, my son works with your son, and he says he's so awesome. He's just an awesome guy. And that same awesomeness is what I get from my mom. So I just want her to have a chance, guys. I'm just here to talk for my mom. Listen to me. I love her. I love her, and I would say anything to make y'all believe that and know that she is the right person for this job. Please have mercy. Please. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
I'll invite, at this point, Phyllis Gant Gambles to the podium. Good morning, Phyllis.
Good morning. I am Phyllis Gant Gambles, Lubbock Chapter NAACP Legal Redress. So here we are again. I've been coming month after month after month, addressing this very thing, that no look pass that we do to people, that we do to families, and we just think we can excuse it with a midnight email to the staff and to the students. And I don't work for Lubbock ISD, but I work for Lubbock ISD. I came in here and I told you guys in March about children I have at home that cry because they don't want to go to school. Little girls I have that are cutting themselves because they don't want to go to school. Because at school they deal with bullies, they deal with racism, they deal with the unanswered issues. So here we are again. We have confirmed nepotism. Confirmed. We have instructors that are moved around like pieces on a checkerboard that are not certified, right? But we moved them from auto body to the law program so that we can take the law program away from Estacado. I stood here. We got the law instructor who's qualified to do what he's done at Estacado for 7 years, Outstanding program. But now he's got to dumb it down so he can go teach little kids. That's that no-look pass. I saw that. Parents, students in April stood here literally and begged you guys not to move that program from Estacado High School. That no-look pass. A mother stood here and asked you to suspend some of the very names of people that I've heard this morning. Not only did you not suspend them to investigate, you didn't even respond to those parents. That's the no-look pass. Fortunately for my community, my game is chess. I don't play checkers. So on behalf of the King family, you guys know I've already contacted the OCR. That's the Office of Civil Rights. I've already contacted the Department of Justice. You saw us on NBC for Cooper and Slayton ISD. If I'm going in for them and I don't even know them, I am a product of Estacado High School. Proud of that. Would not have known what to do at North Texas had there been no Lena Mae Shetfield, AKA Shonda King. So I ask you to rethink what you did. I really do. We need a school board that's true boots on the ground. We need a school board that has no problem getting their hands dirty for every child every day. But we do not, and we cannot tolerate a school board that shows up to work with dirty hands. I'll be back, and I'm bringing my friends.
I'll invite Tony Chavez to the podium. Good morning, Mr. Chavez.
Morning, sir. How you doing this morning?
Fine, thank you.
My name is Tony Chavez. My address is 13717 Red Springs Avenue. Today I'm here on behalf of the taxpayers and concerned citizens. I wanted to report a violation on a board member, Mr. Bill Stubblefield, on May 27th at the Estacado graduation. Mr. Stubblefield violated the LISD policy by giving a student a monetary gift. Mr. Stubblefield did a presentation. He called the student up. He took a $100 bill out of his wallet and called the student up and gave the $100 bill to the student. That is a direct violation of the LISD policy. We cannot give or receive gifts from to students or receive from students. Now, on behalf of the taxpayers and the concerned citizens, we will be filing a complaint with TEA and with the board of directors, the board of trustees. I want to make it known that the board of trustees, superintendent, assistant superintendent are not above the law. What's sad about this situation is that Dr. Rollo and Ms. Reber were present at the graduation. And to my knowledge, no one said anything about his violation of the policy. That is a direct violation of the policy. If he was going to give $100 to one student, he should have gave it to everybody, not just to one student. I mean, if Mr. Stubblefield wants to give money away, I mean, I'd be willing to take, $500 as a taxpayer. I mean, concerned citizen, I need the money myself. Is that right? No, it's not. Board of trustees, superintendent, assistant superintendents need to be held accountable for their actions. You cannot just go around doing what you want to do and no one's going to do anything about it. Today, I want to put you guys on notice that we will file with the TEA, State of Texas, with the Board of Trustees, and we will our First Amendment will be heard. We will be using our First Amendment from this day forward. Thank you.
That concludes the citizen comments section of today's meeting. We will now move into item 7, financials. Any members of the public who'd like to address the board regarding the financial items posted? Seeing none. Approval of the budget summary report for the month ending May 31st, 2023. Budget amendments and transfers for the months of May and June 23. Statement of taxes collected for the month of May 23, and the investment report, for the period of May 2023. Shay Jennings.
Good morning, Mr. Brady, members of the board, Dr. Rollo. These are the May financials and then again the June amendments. It is a requirement that we adopt the final amended budget through June at this meeting. So in May, expenditures and revenues both ran around 88%, which is what you would expect, so that is good news. Otherwise, it was a pretty slow month. We had only one budget amendment in the month of May for $5,500, and that was just a recognition of some revenue. Tax collections were at 102%. Last year, they were at 98%, and our investment average rate of return was 5.7% for the month of May. You'll just see the list of the June amendments is fairly extensive. That is just that final amendment. We go in and we adjust revenue to expected receipts, and then we also make sure that all of our functions are covered because it's a requirement of TEA that we have sufficient budget to cover all of the functions. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Members, the budget items were in your packet distributed last week. As usual, towards the end of the year, there's significant stuff going on, so if anybody has any additional questions, certainly be happy to have some time for that. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the financials as presented?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Consent agenda, board approval of the minutes for the workshop meeting held May 11th, regular meeting held May 25th. Any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, minutes are approved as printed and distributed. Academic action items, any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding any of the academic action items as posted? Seeing none, we will first consider the issuing of a school district teaching permit for Tanner Borchardt to teach career and technical education courses in trade and industry as certified by the superintendent.
Yes, so as approved in our District of Innovation Plan, we have the ability for you to consider approving a local teaching permit for CTE teachers. And so I'm bringing 3 to you today. The first one is Tanner Borchardt. Mrs. Baker is recommending him for trade and industry certification. And he has worked as a shop mechanic for 15 years, gaining experience in safe tool use, enacting an effective safety program, and establishing processes for different kinds of projects.
Okay. As a reminder to the board, as Dr. Rollo briefly mentioned, for CTE, because we have adopted the District of Innovation standards, we can approve folks who have experience in the relevant industry. We can give those folks local certification. That's just in CTE. Any questions of Dr. Rollo about Mr. Borchardt? Do I have a motion to approve issuing a school district teaching permit for Tanner Borchardt to teach a CTE courses in trade and industry as certified by the superintendent?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Next, consider issuing a school district teaching permit for Trevor Hurst to teach career and technical and education courses in architecture and construction, certified by the superintendent, Dr. Rollo.
Yes, Trevor Hurst has been a professional carpenter for 10 years. and is currently serving as the lead carpenter for a local construction company. He has his OSHA certification and oversees his company's safety program.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Is there any question? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of approving a district teaching permit for Mr. Hurst in CTE in architecture and construction, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Finally, a school district teaching permit for Connor McKenzie to teach CTE courses in agricultural science, certified by the superintendent, Dr. Rollo.
Yes, so Connor McKenzie has a Master of Science degree in meat and muscle biology from Texas Tech. He was on the national meat judging team, and we are looking forward to him working in our agriculture programming.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Administrative action items. Do I have any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding the administrative action items posted? Seeing none, first item is approval of contracts for the continuation of attorney services. Rick Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Brady, Board of Trustees. Thank you. This is an annual item. We have certainly enjoyed our relationship with the law firms listed there in the item for you. And so it's just an annual item that we bring to renew our relationship with those particular firms.
And for the benefit of those perhaps watching, what law firms were those, please?
Those are the Underwood Law Firm, Baker, Brown, Thompson, Walsh and Gallegos, Trevino, Kyle, and Robinson. Those are the ones that we use. We use them for various other things. For example, Walsh and Gallegos we use more for the special ed realm. Our main firm that we use is Underwood, and we're pleased. Yep. Ann Manning is our main attorney for that represents us.
Okay. Members, you've heard the explanation on the contracts for attorney services. Do anybody have any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of 23-24 Title I Supplement, Not Supplant Compliance Requirement. Shay Jennings.
Good morning. Yes, this is an annual item. It is a federal regulation from Title I that we demonstrate that we are supplementing, not supplanting, state and local funds. So in your budget book, you will see under the budget methodology tab that document, and it just ensures that the schools receive all of the state and local funds that it would otherwise receive if it didn't receive Title I funds.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Are there any questions? As Ms. Jennings pointed out, this is an annual action that we take. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of resolution extending depository contract for district funds. Shay Jennings.
Yes, in 2016, 2017, we went out to depository bid, and Plains Capital Park was chosen at that time to be our depository bank. And we had a period, we were allowed then three 2-year extensions. This will be that last 2-year extension, so that expiring in June of 2025, and then we will have to go back out for depository bid.
And given the changing interest rate environment, I assume that you're monitoring the interest rate we're getting there and ensuring it's competitive?
Yes, sir. It's still very, very competitive.
All right. Do any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution extending the depository contract for funds with Plains Capital Bank?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D, adoption of the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget. Shay,
Thank you.
I wanted to say in part, but
In
I know
part.
that's not technically what we're doing.
No.
24 adoption and the 23-24 proposed tax rate. And you can see here what the only dates that we have left are on July 25th, we'll receive our certification of tax rolls, and then on August 24th, depending on what the legislature does with property tax relief, we'll have a possible hearing on that tax rate and then let's set that 23-24 tax rate. Budget development and assumptions. This is everything that you've seen before up to this point. Our preliminary LCAD values came in at 6.4% increase over the 22 certified. And then we take that same increase and apply that to the comptroller's property tax value, and you see there the 23-24 values of the $14,345,000,000. And then we are assuming an average daily attendance of 22,445. That is a 1,692 ADA reduction from the 22-23 school year of 24,137.
Can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
The move in the legislature, or that school folks have asked for in the legislature, to switch from attendance to enrollment, is that caught up in all the House Bill 100 stuff that's in limbo, or is that completely dead, or do we know?
It's dead right now.
Okay, all right.
The only thing we would see that, or possibly in some of the SPED and the special allotments,
Thank
which would be beneficial, by the way.
Okay. Sure it would. Forever.
Yes. So for right now, based on preliminary, again, property values, we are proposing a maintenance and operations tax rate of 0.8652, which is the maximum compressed tax rate under current law that we are allowed to pass. And then we are maintaining the same interest and sinking tax rate, which again is to cover our bonded indebtedness. That tax collections on that rate can only be used to pay off debt. So we are leaving that at 17.5 cents for a total proposed tax rate of $1.402. And then the final M&O tax rate will be based on the certified local values received after July 25th, and then again whatever the legislature agrees on as far as continued tax compression. And here are historical tax rates for the last 15 years. You can see starting in 1920 with the passage of House Bill 3 that we have continued to see a lower tax rate every year. General operating revenues under current law model, we are proposing $238,543,41. That is a decrease year over year of $2,118,242. This does take into account the increased yield on the golden pennies. Remember, we have 6 golden pennies, and so that does encompass that amount. But because we reduced the ADA by 1,692, because we're a declining enrollment in district, we are seeing that reduction of $2 million. And here are just the highlights of that general operating revenues. Because of the increase in property values, we are seeing, even though we have the reduction in the tax rate, an increase of $3.5 million. And then available school fund, a decrease of $1.4 million. Foundation school fund, $6.3 million. And then the 1882 money that the LPN charter receives, a reduction of $346,576. All other general resources, you see a $2.5 million increase. That is a $1 million increase in indirect costs that we receive on our grants, and then a $1.5 million increase in our interest revenue because of the increase in interest rates. And there you have it, equates all back to that $2,118,242 decrease year over year. And this is just a breakout of our general operating revenues. You can see 51% of our revenue comes from tax collections, 43% right now from state revenue, and 6% local and other. That's the interest revenue, indirect cost, the SHARS Medicaid revenue, all of those things. General operating expenditures, you see that we are proposing a budget of $238,543,41. It's that same $2,118,242 reduction year over year. And here's that breakout by object major. We have a reduction in payroll of $6.7 million. That is largely in part due to, we did do some staff reductions, but also we have 1 year left of the ESSER money, and we are able to shift about $8 million of personnel expenditures for 1 more year to the ESSER to relieve the general fund. 6,200, you see an increase of 24,880. And then materials and supplies, an increase of 328,000. That's mainly fuel increases. And then 6,400, an increase of 3.7 million. That's basically because our property insurance doubled. And then capital outlay, an increase of 496,000. We took all capital outlay out of the budget last year to help balance that budget, and we are just asking you to put that back in. And there you see that decrease of 2,118,242. Up to this point, you have seen the budget adoption at the object level because it's just more meaningful, payroll, contracted services, things like that. But we are required by law to actually adopt it at the function level. So this will be the first time that you see that at the function level. For function 11, instruction, you see that decrease of 5.9 million. That's again those salary reductions and the ESSER relief. Function 12, which is libraries, $28,000 decrease. Staff development, $719,000 decrease. Instructional leadership, a slight increase, and then school leadership, a slight increase.
Shay, will you go back to that slide, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
I think for the benefit of those watching or here in person, the difference on the instruction, what would that be if it weren't for the ESSER movement?
About a $3 million increase.
I just want to
Yes,
make
sir.
that because when you see school leadership and instructional leadership going up, but instruction going down, I just want to make sure people understand that's going up as well.
Yes, and part of that would be because we deferred about $2 million of the health insurance last year to fund balance to balance the budget, and that is put back in there for this year.
Right, thanks for that question, Shay. Thanks for that explanation.
Absolutely. Guidance and counseling, a slight decrease of 13,000. Social work services, slight decrease. Health services, a decrease of 130,000. Student transportation, you see an increase of 290,000. That is the increase in fuel and then some additional routes, mainly related to the agri-STEM and special ed. And then extra and co-curricular, you see an increase of 323,000, which is, we have some transportations or some buses and some things like that in there. And then 41, general administration, which is central office, you see a decrease of 200,000. Plant and maintenance operations, 51, you see an increase of 4 million. There was a CPI increase for the Sodexo contract year over year. There's a $290,000 increase in electricity. We know we're going into deregulation. That's a 10% increase of where we budgeted last year. That's just a guesstimate on that. And then also that approximately $3.7 million increase in the health and the property insurance, 52, security and monitoring, you're going to see the $290,000 increase. We did add additional officers during the 22-23 school year and some additional positions for this next year, as well as 3 police vehicles. Data processing, function 53, you see a decrease. That's just a decrease in their subscriptions and things like that, the cost of those year over year. Community services, 61, a small decrease. And then the 99 other governmental, that is the LCAD budget increase there for their collections and appraisals that they do on our behalf. And for, again, that total of $2,118,242 decrease. So we do have a balanced budget. We are proposing a balanced budget. I would like to point out that this is not reflective of any salary increases. We are kind of at the mercy of the legislature at this point. Would you like to speak to that a little bit?
Yes, so we could bring a compensation package we will bring a compensation package to you in the future. But if the legislature does anything right now, so we are waiting for them to do their job.
And we would make it retroactive to July 1st.
Yes.
You are also required to approve the debt service budget. You can see year over year on that, we have a balanced budget of $24,787,043. Because of the increase in property values, you see an increase there, taxes current year of $2.9 million, and then an interest income, again reflective of the increased interest rates of $275,000 for an local revenue increase year over year of $3.165389. Bond principal, you'll see a fairly large increase there. In order to keep that our INS tax rate at that 17.5 cents, we have chosen as a district to be able to pay off debt early. And so this year we'll probably have to pay off probably around $8 million in defeasances based on that preliminary local values in order to justify that tax rate. And then you see the bond interest is down $2.2 million, and that is because over the last 2 years we have paid off a little over $6 million in debt early.
This is not strictly related to the current budget, but on the debt service question, at what point do we take a look at whether we've generated any headroom for additional bond authority requests at the current tax rate?
We had
Been 6 years since our last
right.
election.
We did have our financial advisor Jeff Roberts speak to the finance committee a few months ago, and he felt at that time that we had at least $100 million in capacity to pass a bond without additional tax increase.
Okay.
And then the last budget that I'm going to ask you to approve today is our food service budget. We have a balanced budget at $20,626,932. We see local revenues are down just slightly, $53,000. And then you'll see our federal revenue up significantly. We have school breakfast program, $60,000. But in total revenues up $1.8 million for a total food service revenue increase of $1.8 million. And on the expenditure side, you see that same increase of $1.762591. Questions, comments about food service?
What was the fund balance? What's in the fund balance right now?
In fund balance, undesignated as of June 30th of last year, which is our last audited period, was about $66 million, which is right at 3 months of operating. We are advised by TASBO, our organization, our financial organization, to keep about 3 months operating. That's very prudent because sometimes, like if the legislature is held up, we have a July 1st district, they have a September 1st date, so for those first 2 months, we don't get any payments from them, so we have to cover payroll and things like that, which was about $16 million a month. So we like to keep about that 3 months operating. And where we're going to be this year is yet to be determined.
And we can, as far as the salary increase at this point, I know we're waiting on special sessions and what happens with that, but we will come back and discuss that and could approve a one-time, maybe lump sum, instead of a salary increase. I think it just depends what.
Certainly
Yes.
an option.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to look at what the, if something, and correct me if you see this differently, anybody, but the way I see it, depending on the packages that have been put forward so far would require that a percentage of the money that's in that additional revenue from the state go out as salary, right? And I guess we could look at a number of options to catch up for the for the fiscal year, depending on when that decision is reached and what the rules are. But we're kind of speculating at present, I would say.
That's correct.
Very much so speculating. And just as a reminder too, this upcoming year is our third and final year for the ESSER retention bonuses. that were going to be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and then last year we did 3,000, so it's 133.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Those-
is in place for this upcoming year as well.
Those are not impacted by a compensation package not being adopted. We will have to bring you a compensation package regardless of whether with an increase or flat. We'll have to bring something forward to you all for adoption.
I want to take a minute to thank Ryan and Beth, especially for their work on finance. Lala attended several of those meetings as well, and I appreciate that. I think this is my 6th year to be on finance, and I'm struck by the old adage that sometimes being on a budget committee is easier when there's not any extra money because there weren't many actual choices to make. And that's unfortunate, but it's the cards that we're dealing with, and the current state of the law doesn't leave us any options, quite frankly.
No, it does not.
Any other questions or comments regarding the operating budget, debt service budget, and food service budget as presented?
I will say, Shay, just thank you to you and your team, and then everybody within the district. I know a lot of tough decisions were made, and you know, Dr. Rollo, I'd especially appreciate your team because your department was one of the only ones that went down, and so I hope people see that, and some of that perception that maybe more is spent here than other places isn't accurate by the numbers, and so. I don't love that we're not talking about a salary package right now, but I also am hopeful that, you know, something will get done in Austin. And so I'd encourage anybody listening or in the audience, contact our local people. We've never had a larger state surplus, and absolutely zero is being done. And so it's extremely disappointing.
Well, and with that being said, I feel like they're holding us hostage because of the vouchers, and we've talked about that. I'm not too happy about that, and I just don't feel like we need to hold our teachers or our staff hostage either. That's how I feel. So, yeah.
That feeling is not invalid. All right. Anything else on that subject? If not, a motion to approve the adoption of those 3 budgets I previously mentioned would be in order. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 3-1. We'll move into item 11, procurement and contracts. Do we have any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding any of the procurement and contract items posted? Seeing none, we'll move into item A, approval of district purchases. Members, the purchasing information is in your packet. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Brady. So we'll move through these fairly quickly. The first one is a high school choir trip. Is the district's, this is a pass-through situation, so funds will be raised. Our students are going to get the choir students are going to get the opportunity to go and perform in New York City at Carnegie Hall, and they will, among students and parents, booster clubs, they'll be raising funds in order to fund that trip completely. So no district funds will be used in that on that trip.
And this is all of our high school choirs
Right.
combined.
And then the annual purchase, I'll just kind of move through. The next 2 are curriculum items related to instructional materials. There's the copy paper, which is an annual purchase for us. And then we're doing scoreboards for the internal gyms at the 4 high schools. They're needing to be refreshed, and so we're doing those this year.
Members, that concludes the explanation of the purchases. Any questions? If not, do I have a collected motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of district contract renewals, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, so year 3 of 5 for student transportation. We've enjoyed continue to enjoy our relationship with Durham Transportation Services. And so this does include a 2% CPI for Durham employees. And then the Employee Assistance Program, we shared some good information with our Operations Committee at our last meeting regarding this. It's just a slight increase. We expected the slight increase here for this. And then the last one is the Resource Reading Program. This is year 2 of 4. This is a not-to-exceeds number. And so you can see the details on that item there. Be happy to answer any questions.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Any questions? Do I have a collective motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of district construction purchase, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. The only item for us this morning is, for this, is just an increase in the project for Dupree Elementary. Now, keep in mind, at the time when we did this, this is just adding some contingency funds in order to make sure that we've got enough to complete that project in time. Okay.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Any questions? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, approval of construction job order contracting delivery method and delegation of authority. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. Standard item that we bring to you frequently, asking for delegation of authority for choosing criteria, relative weights, and ranking, selection and evaluation of bids, proposals, or qualifications for 2 of our projects. And one is for the auditorium upgrades at Dunbar College Preparatory Academy, and the other project is field house upgrades at Chapman Field that we need to perform. So.
You've heard the explanation. Do I have a motion to approve delegating authority to the superintendent for choosing criteria, relative weights, ranking, selecting, and evaluation of proposals, and to approve the use of construction job order contracting delivery method for the renovations presented?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm going to defer item 12 until later, either in today's meeting or to another meeting. And at this point, it is 8:38 a.m. and an executive session is called for under the provisions of Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. It's still 8:38. We're adjourned.
It's item 12.
It is 10:22 a.m. and we are reconvened from executive session. Members, are there any action items following executive session? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.